Hi, Michelle here, and I'm continuing my reviews on different resources that I have been using while acquiring the language of Spanish. I'm on month 4 currently, and I'm gonna say acquiring the language of Spanish with commitment and dedication right now, because in previous videos I've mentioned where I've been on and off and things like that. So this is going to be on media. So this includes podcasts, cartoons, movies, whatever that be, my experience with using media. And so the first thing I'm going to start with is with cartoons. So I have found cartoons very helpful, and they have been helpful because I have been doing a lot about comprehensible input. And so I'm going to do a video dedicated strictly to comprehensible input, because I've actually have found like that is a method that is working for me. And when I learned about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes total sense. Why didn't I start with this? But anyways, that's how I learned. So what I would say is I started watching cartoons on Netflix, and I would have the closed caption on. But one of the things that I was noticing is that I was kind of listening, but I was more so reading. So when I'm reading, I'm really not paying attention to like what I'm hearing. I'm just more so trying to keep up with what I'm reading, and I'm going to make out the story. And so I felt like that wasn't really working for me, because my goal is to be able to comprehend and listen better in terms of, you know, hearing Spanish, picking up on the words, picking up on everything that is being said, and being able to comprehend it. So I learned like I had to take the closed caption off, because that wasn't helping me. It was basically just enabling me not to start to tune my ears in more, because I was doing more reading than listening. And so I watch cartoons such as Elmo's Way. I really love Peppa Pig. This is the first time I've seen Peppa Pig while I'm watching it in Spanish. And I feel like Peppa Pig, the stories are short, so they're like 5-minute increments, and they're actually funny, actually. So I really enjoy watching Peppa Pig, and there's so many episodes of it. I felt like when I was watching cartoons that were maybe 12 to 15, it was almost too long. Maybe it's because like I don't understand the language. So for me, I can start to drift off, or I want to check my phone, or whatever it is, that I'm not being able to commit to that time. And I think it's more so because I'm still learning the language, and I can't sit there like I do in English and kind of do other things, and I can still hear and know what's going on in the story. So one other thing is like when I give my attention to something, it's kind of like I have to like put my phone away. I have to like do all these things because I want to be definitely committed to that. But one thing I love about Peppa Pig is that the episodes are really short. So the next thing was like telenovelas, películas, like movies, novelas, things like that in Spanish. So most of the Spanish that's spoken in movies and novelas, they're advanced speaking, right? So what I've started to do is like, I used to listen or watch more, but I've noticed that I'm really not picking up on much. And what I'm learning more with my comprehensible input, which I said that's been like a total game changer for me, is that it's not like, oh, it's so mandatory for me to listen to these shows with speaking such advanced Spanish. What helps is like when I can hear it, oh man, that's exciting. I feel like comprehensible input has helped me get to that point where now I'm listening to the Spanish that's spoken faster, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I understood that. Oh, I even understood the tense that they were speaking it. I just understood a sentence. So it's been very great. But when I first started out, before I started using comprehensible input, it was like little words I would pick up. But it was more so, I don't know. It wasn't like the best thing for me at that time. Like it wasn't helping me advance where I was going in terms of acquiring the language of Spanish. And then the other form is podcasts. So I feel like podcasts are important too, because they do have podcasts where, you know, they're trying to help, especially like intermediate Spanish speakers. So one of my favorites is How to Spanish podcast, which I love that because they have so many different stories, and I learned so much from it too as well. Sometimes a lot of the subjects I don't have the full comprehension of the entire podcast, and I get bits and pieces. And since I've started comprehensible input, which has probably been about maybe 3 weeks or so, I haven't listened to How to Spanish podcast yet. So I've just been doing other things because I want to basically build more hours at the level that I'm at, because How to Spanish podcast is, I believe, more so at like an intermediate level. Another podcast that I enjoy is No Hay Dos. And so like these two podcasts is Mexican Spanish, and I am learning Mexican Spanish. So for me, it's very helpful. And I've seen where there's a bunch of other different Spanish if you're like trying to learn the Spanish that is spoken, or what the accent sounds like in different countries, I would just say Google that and see what's out there, and then see what the different levels that they have, because then you can learn more about the culture in those particular countries, the people. And I think it's really cool because it's like I get to expand my learning while listening to this podcast, which, you know, I wasn't going to learn about before, but also I'm helping myself like understand and comprehend and listen to. So media is very important in terms of like consuming the information. It's also part of the immersion process. I see it that way as well, because I get to learn more about a specific country, culture, whatever that may look like. So that's my reviews on media. If you have anything or other resources you'd like to share, please write them down below in the comments. Ciao.